just when I thought this show was getting really good, we predictably thought it was gonna go downhill, and wow, it went downhill like halfway through. It wasn't horrible, but this was not a very good episode.
I wouldn't be as harsh on it. I still think it's decent. The main issue is that they just tried to throw so many different things in there and made it really confusing. Overall, this is kind of what I expected from a 6-episode format as we usually have with the Marvel shows. And I don't think it's as bad as the rest of them. I still think it's way more entertaining. It's done better. It's just that there are so many different plot lines that have been introduced in one singular episode. And I don't really know how they're going to resolve all of them in 3 more.
I will agree with you. It is better than most of the episodes from the other shows, but it shares the same problems as the other ones, where it's just so much that is just crammed into one, just so they can just keep moving. It just feels rushed. I remember when we were watching it, we were like, what's going on? What's going on? It felt like we missed like a couple episodes, the way that things were progressing. Did you have that feeling?
Yeah, I kind of had that, but you knew from the beginning already when the first 2 were this slow paced, and it really took time on just establishing one thing, and that was who was Mark and who was Steven. We knew that they had to introduce something crazy to get it going, because I don't think many people were just expecting the entire show after seeing the first 2 to be like that the whole time, and then Moon Knight only shows up in the last episode, since we know literally he's the main character and we have to see him in the suit and more suit time, which we did get in this episode, was expected. I think the way they're going with this, it will be okay as long as we don't add a bunch of more plot lines in the next one. We just focus on resolving all of the things that have been introduced in the episode for these 3, and then have some final battle, which I'm expecting, and I think will pretty much be the best Marvel show.
Yeah, definitely. But somebody needs to just sit down and realize that the pacing is so off. It felt like the amount of things that happened in this episode, it felt like the previous 2 episodes needed to be like 5 times longer. Because the relationships with certain characters, like Khonshu and stuff, when certain things happened, like for him being trapped in stone by the end of this episode, it didn't hit as much for me. Because all I was thinking was, oh, it's halfway through. Okay, he's just gonna get freed in the next episode or something. Because there's no way they're gonna go all the way through in one episode without having Moon Knight.
Yeah, definitely. I think the main issue for me was that the gods just listened to Arthur Harrow basically after he just denied that he did anything wrong. They're like, oh, I'm not trying to summon him. And they're just like, okay. And they just relied on the fact that he said Mark was unstable. And I just thought they're literal gods. So they probably have some magical power that can sense if he's lying. And the fact that he got teleported there, but one of the gods sent off Mark to find the sarcophagus on his own. Couldn't they just have teleported the sarcophagus if they were able to transport Arthur there in an instant? I'm pretty sure in this world, transferring an inanimate object is probably a lot easier than an animate one. But yeah, that was probably my main issue, and I don't know how this logic is going to play out for the rest of the series.
The fact that you were able to catch on to that the second it played on screen just goes to show how much thought that the people behind the show put into this. It's kind of ridiculous. Like, another thing that I wanted to mention that actually happens when we first meet the gods is like they all show up in their avatar form, and they speak through their body because they didn't want to spend too much money on the CGI. That's what it is. That's definitely what it is. And they say, oh, we don't want to interfere with humans because, and you know why? It's if they did, they'd have defeated Thanos in 5 seconds. That's the same thing that happened in Eternals. It's a cop-out. What did you think about that? It has to be a cop-out.
I didn't really relate it to Eternals and the rest of the MCU, but it is canon, and I guess you could see it that way, but that's a little bit harsh for me, I think, because if Endgame would have been 5 minutes long, Captain Marvel just destroyed Thanos' entire army, which easily could have happened, but they need to keep it going somehow. So if you really want to break it down, of course, and there's a lot of issues in everyone, but I think that overall, just within this self-contained world of Moon Knight, there's just too much going on in one instance, and we gotta see the results of him literally turning back the time.
It doesn't make any sense. One thing that doesn't make any sense is They say something like, oh, we abandoned humanity. And he's like, no, humanity abandoned us. If they feel that way, why do they have human avatars? It doesn't make any sense. It's just like, it throws you into this giant world so fast, and I don't know what's going on. It just feels like, let's just get all of this information out of the way so we can have a giant fight at the end. I don't know what's going on. It's just so fast-paced. So I guess it's time, let's start breaking down what happens in this episode. So what happens in the first scene? Do you remember?
I mean, there was so much to juggle, you can't even start in one place.
Yeah, I guess the first thing I remember is Arthur Harrow showing up in his Lawrence of Arabia outfit, and they find Amit's tomb just instantly. So this guy arrives in Egypt with this giant armed force army. He has a giant convoy, just normal dude of people that just showed up at the same time as Moon Knight. And it just feels like that's just the opening felt like, did I miss an episode? And then they find the tomb with the scarab thing, but then it's not really a tomb. So and it's actually in some outdoor museum, which is stupid, by the way. If you had a museum with really expensive relics, who the hell decides it's a great idea to just lay it all out outside in front of a circus or something?
Yeah, I definitely think there's something that they're gonna have to touch upon there. I know that the pyramids look exactly like the Louvre pyramids in France, but I don't think there's been any crazy expensive object inside it. So it's going to be really interesting to see what the actual significance of the sarcophagus was, because Arthur used his staff to conjure up some magic, and it just basically exploded and disappeared. We don't really know why they're after it.
And then another thing during the fight scenes, there was one good fight scene in this episode where they were fighting in that medieval knights lancing thing where everyone had a spear or something. I don't know what that was. And Moon Knight stabs and murders a lot of people, which has been missing in the MCU, where, like, you know, the funny thing is, like, the Avengers murder people, and, like, they used to show that, but then they just stopped doing it now. But then the fact that in the MCU we see like our heroes killing henchmen, and that being a big deal is kind of really funny and ironic. But it was a good fight scene. And in this fight scene, we're seeing, like, I feel like the writers feel like they're so obligated to just have Steven complain all the time. Because I feel like Steven, that persona of Steven in Mark, is smart enough to realize that he can't handle these guys by fighting alone. So he just shows up, and then he gets beat up, and he's like, okay, you take my body back. It just felt so unnecessary. For me.
Yeah, I can see why you feel that way. Obviously, Mark is way more inclined to actually kill people in regards to the Mr. Knight costume, and we haven't really seen that in action too much. And it does make sense within the context of where they were in the situation, but overall, I think that was probably one of the highlights of the episode. So
yeah, later on in the episode, when Steven helps them out with the Egyptian relic, which makes no sense. The funny thing is, a guy who works in a museum, a human who works in a museum, knows more about Egyptian mythology and, like, how this constellation thing works, when they literally have an Egyptian god at their disposal. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's something where that the gods can't interfere with the human affairs, like the same thing in Eternals, but the fact that he's there talking to him, and I guess he needs, like, a human host to do out his bidding, and he actually can't physically gather the stars together. I don't know the context behind that, but
he could just, like, appear like Steven and just instruct him, right? He could have done that.
Yeah, honestly, there's just so many things that happen. I can't really tell what is allowed in this universe and what isn't.
Yeah, and then did you like how a bunch of characters just kept teleporting everywhere? Like how Arthur Harrow just said, hey, I'm here now. What did you think of that? Like,
yeah, that was interesting.
He did that like 4 times in this episode.
The god that told Mark where to go and find the sarcophagus, I'm pretty sure everyone had left after that, and Arthur had to have been gone. by then he'd escaped outside the tomb door, or for some reason, I don't know why he'd be waiting by himself in the middle of the pyramid, but I don't know how he'd be able to hear it. But if it was anyone who would be able to hear it in some circumstance, it would be Arthur Harrow, because he does have the staff, and I still think he's connected to Amit already in some way, and that maybe he was his avatar, or is going to be his avatar in the future, because I don't know, something feels off with Khonshu and Arthur. I don't know why Khonshu would pick Arthur as an avatar if he's like this diametrically opposed to what he believes in. And literally at the end of the episode, he says that, "Oh, you are the one to cause my victory." So we're gonna see. I think something is off there, and hopefully it alludes to him actually not being Khonshu's avatar, because that would be cool. Because I think Arthur Harrow and Mark are way different people, and you assume as an Egyptian god in this universe, you want to pick an avatar who is somewhat close to a representation of you as a god yourself. So we'll see what that wraps up to.
Yeah. Also, there's a knife fight in the beginning of this episode where Mark is tracking down some people that work for Arthur Harrow to find out where Amit's dig site is. And it's some of the most underwhelming knife fights ever. And there's also a chase scene too. I could have filmed that chase scene. I could have blocked it out. That's how horrendous it was. It wasn't bad. It was just so extremely underwhelming. They add this extremely thriller music, like, oh shoot, look at this fight and stuff, and it was just so lame. There's one good fight in it where this guy was like doing some knife tricks and he just got punched in the face. That was like an Indiana Jones moment. But other than that, that was a weird fight scene, but then it kind of got saved itself with that final fight where he is in the Moon Knight suit and beats up all those mercenaries.
Yeah, I can see why you think that. Overall, I think I've gone past the need for nitpicking Marvel fight scenes. They get the job done, they're satisfactory. I don't think that's really the main reason why people watch Marvel, and I don't think that's the main aspect they focus on anyway. It's not going to be any close to the Raid or any of that Asian action, of course, but
I mean,
it gets the job done.
It does, but I'm pretty sure the big appeal for these superheroes movies is big superhero boom 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 and explosion, and also the lore stuff. I mean, we're going there to see epic fight scenes and stuff, and not all that much for the stories. For me, I think now what gets Marvel fans really excited are action scenes and reveals and cameos. That's what it is, And so I think the action's a big pill.
Oh yeah, I was referring to only the opening hand-to-hand combat fight. I don't think they really care about the human version of Mark fighting.
Oh, so the hand-to-hand stuff. Okay, yeah, that I agree
with. I was
with
referring to that, but no, of course the Moon Knight stuff, and that was actually done very well. It was cool.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. What else happens in this episode? It's not horrible. I know I'm angry, and that's really because I really love this show and I want this to be great. And the first sign of trouble, major trouble, which I know both of us could agree on, it's already triggering me, so I hope. But the thing is, Arthur Harrow's still very good. I still like him. He's I think Ethan Hawke, you were saying this. He just added another extra load in his shoulder to carry when it comes to carrying this entire show. You gotta admit with that, at least in this. Even though him teleporting everywhere is bad, he makes it cool. Ethan Hawke makes it cool.
He's just incredible. I mean, one of the best actors of the generation, if not of all time. I mean, his screen presence, especially for this character. I mean, no one, a casual fan at least, like me, would not know who Arthur Harrow was before this, and now he's transformed him into the most memorable villain for me out of the Disney Plus shows, and we're only halfway in, so that's quite good. I do think that this series so far has the best acting, and really just pure characters who we can not forget, unlike, say, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, comparing those two.
The dialogue's pretty good too. It is good, but I don't think Arthur Harrow's gonna top Carly Morgenthau or something, the Flag Smasher lady, right? She was a great villain, right?
Yeah, not a fan, unfortunately.
Okay, yeah, that was a horrendous villain. That was sarcasm right there. Yeah, it's a major dip from the last 2 episodes, but I'm holding out hope. I think it'll be good. I think at the very least, as worst as it can get, it'll be the best MCU Marvel show.
I agree. Yeah, I'm still optimistic. I think coming into this, my expectations weren't like this is going to be the best Marvel movie or the best Marvel content we've had, but so far I haven't been too surprised by anything. I knew something crazy was going to happen, that they need to spice it up at least halfway through with what they've done. So far, I still remain optimistic, and I'm enjoying the show. I can't lie.
I don't think it's
good.
gonna. Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's gonna get too bad. I just think like they're gonna have so much things to juggle with, and then there's like a lot of plot holes here and there that they're already creating for themselves. Oh, there's another major thing we forgot to talk about. Apparently, Arthur Harrow knows about some secret thing about Layla where her father was murdered or something, and he doesn't. And then she's like, "What is this?" What didn't make any sense to me is how does he have that much access to information? If it was something as crazy as her father's death, I'm pretty sure she would have been able to uncover that information too. I mean, literally the episode opens with her like faking an Egyptian passport. I'm pretty sure she's like some spy or some sort, and she's very well combat trained too. So it just doesn't make any sense to me.
This is my guess. I think that from the beginning, since he kind of channeling on his powers with the staff, and from the first episode we could tell based on the scale tattoo that he has, determining whether the person will have a good fate or a bad fate. I think he can send somehow anyone near him in the close proximity, whether they're good or bad, based on their life action that they've done. And if Layla has something to do with her father's death, then maybe Arthur, that's the reason he knows her fate or something. That's literally the only way I can see this happening.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't know.
Within his character, it makes sense for him to know. But then it's just like, hey, I'm here now. Oh, I know everything about you. It's just like, come on, man. That's like every villain trope. It's like, at least most of the time they tell you how they know. Or it's just like really well-known information that everybody knows about, and they use that in a way to like drill into that character. But this guy's just like, I know everything. And it just was weird. But
I don't blame it too much. I think he's got little superpowers with the staff, so I think this is the least unexpected thing in this show.
yeah. And also the show ends at the end with them trying to piece together this puzzle for this constellation, and they had to find some sign in the constellation by turning back time or something. I don't know what was going on. Something like that. And then they lined up something, and then obviously this goes against the gods' code of trying to keep themselves like, you know, hidden from humanity, and it ends up Khonshu is trapped in a stone, and Moon Knight is no more. So, and Khonshu says to Layla that when Steven turns back to Mark, tell Mark to come and save me. So I don't know how that's gonna happen, and maybe I feel like my prediction is they're gonna show that when he tries to save them, they're gonna try to like intercut it with like a backstory or a flashback of how he first met Khonshu and got the Moon Knight power.
That'd be great.
If they do that, that'll be really cool.
That would.
Yeah.
I think there's just so much to squeeze in these last 3 episodes. So
Yeah.
hopefully they can wrap it up nicely.
Yeah. I'm gonna stop rating each episode. I just think there's no point at this point. So I'm just gonna say it wasn't bad. It's just all right. It's just a major dip from the first 2 episodes. It's still above average, I would say.
I remain confident that the rest of the show will be quite good. So
Yeah.
so far, I won't make any final judgments because that's definitely pretty unfair until the last episode.
And I'm pretty sure you're like, if there's someone out there who's really good at predicting the quality of something, it's you. So I trust you.
Thank
If
you.
it's not, I'm gonna be very angry at you.
We will find out
Yeah.
in 3 weeks.
Yeah. All right, guys. Let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next video.